welcome to the first, webinar of the year. My name is Dr. Azumah. I am the host and the moderator of this excellent platform. And today we are going to be discussing overcoming bullying and microaggression in the workplace. This event is hosted by Azumah Solutions under the title Healthy and Uplifted. My name is Dr. Azumah. I am a board-certified obstetrician and gynecologist, a public health professional, community health educator, and a social entrepreneur. I am the founder of Healthy and Uplifted and the co-founder and president of Love Your Menses, Inc. I am also a doula, trained doula. I'm a certified life coach, organization consultant, blogger, professional speaker, and author. All right, so let's just do some quick housekeeping. So by participating in this event, let's say you're participating via Facebook, any of your comments becomes a product for Healthy and Uplifted. So we will use your name, your image for advertisement, electronically, print, or in multimedia publication. Please notify us if you don't want your comments used, and we will edit you out. Please note that the information provided is not intended or implied to be a substitute for your professional medical diagnosis. What we're doing here is just providing information using our expertise because community education is what we're all passionate about. Today, this conversation might be triggering for some people because we know, as the data says, 30% of American adults have been bullied at work. So if you need any support, please contact us or contact your healthcare provider for more help. Views, languages, and opinions expressed by the keynote speakers, session leaders, or attendees do not necessarily reflect that of Healthy and Uplifted. All right, so let's review quickly the agenda. We've done the housekeeping rules. Welcome again. We're going to then do some reflections, and then I'll introduce you to our subject matter experts. Then we would wrap off and we will go from there. So let's start with some reflections. Have you been a victim of workplace bullying? Again, the data I got from workplacebullying.org says 30% of adult Americans have been bullied at work. That is about 76.3 million workers. Even those that work remotely, 43% said they've been bullied. So to me, as a public health professional, I think this is an important issue. Last event of 2021, we talked about school bullying, and during the creation of school bullying, we decided wow, bullying doesn't really stop in schools. It continues, right? Because sometimes bullies do not change. Now they go to the workplace and they are bullying others. The next reflective question is, do you know of anyone who was bullied at work? We're not talking about school now, we're talking about work. Last question to reflect on is, what will you do if you witness a workplace bullying? What would you do? Now, I'm going to introduce my speakers. My first speaker is Jolie Blunt. Jolie Blunt is a social impact enterprise strategist, like an amazing strategist. She's a 2-time best-selling author. She's an ordained minister. She's a founder, CEO, and executive director of Impactful Community Change. Jolie Blunt is one of my social entrepreneurial partners. We've worked together. She's helped me out. She's helped us with Love Your Menses. She was pivotal when we did the Help Haiti Heal relief. It was through Jolie's leadership that we were able to acquire items that we shipped out to Haiti. It was really beautiful to see their faces when they received the items. So Jolie, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Aitlin Peacock. Aitlin Peacock is my good friend, my confidant. She's been here since Healthy and Uplifted was started in 2020. And this platform started during the pandemic because we wanted to have dialogues and provide solutions for busy moms. Anyhow, Eileen Peacock is from Sierra Leone, West Africa. She now resides in the United States. Her background includes multimedia journalism, digital content creator, video editor, and producer. She creates websites, blogs, and social media content. Eileen is also an entrepreneur and owns her own media company called Brightest Stars, where she uses all her talents to help her clients become more successful. Thank you, Eileen, for being here. I'm going to be introducing our next speaker. He's the last but not the least. You guys, I don't know if you remember him, but CK was one of our pivotal speakers when we had the webinar on colorism. That was a hit. I think we had, for us, almost like 5,000 views on YouTube, I believe, or combined YouTube and Facebook. All right, for those that haven't met CK was born Corey Kenneth Nix, but he's widely known as CKNX. CK was born and raised in Racine, Wisconsin. He then went to the University of Wisconsin Parkside, where he studied communications and conflict analysis and resolution. He currently resides in Cincinnati with his wife and 2 children. CK is known for this tagline, listen, create something dope. Create something now, just create. He's a self-taught freelance graphic designer with the brand CNYX Graphics. CK provides a plethora of custom design services, including logos, apparel, cartooning and illustration, also website creation and editing, billboard design, and much more. In 2021, CK launched NX All Day Media, followed by a podcast in July of 2021. The podcast is fondly known as the Dialogues Within the Halo, with a lot of followers. You guys, please join me in welcoming our master keynote speakers. Thank you. All right, so now we are going to hand over the presentation to our speaker, Jolie. Jolie, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Healthy and Uplifted session. And thank you, Dr. Azumah, for that beautiful, introduction. I have truly enjoyed working with you as well. So I'll start off by just talking a little bit about overcoming bullying, microaggression in the workplace. And she's already introduced me. So I like to just generally say that I am a nerd word person. I love words. And so typically when I'm looking up at a word, I'm looking a word up and I like to look at the origin of the word, the etymology of the word. And when you look at the word bullying, the origin of that word is something that derived from a place that we actually experienced 1,500 centuries ago. And the meaning actually started with sweetheart. It actually is applied to either sex from a Dutch word called boel, meaning lover brother. That means that there is actually a different in definition when it actually originated. And so from there, throughout the years, about a century or so, or I'd say actually 17 centuries thereafter, the word migrated and actually turned from sweetheart to meaning fine fellow, later becoming more or less something that of harasser harasser of the week, my apologies. And so that generally come from, in the beginning where it actually talked about the word sweetheart, you had 2 lovers that were in a relationship, and that relationship was pretty much tied into something that was kind of almost like a abusive or domestic violent type scenario. And that's how it migrated from it going from lover brother to it actually progressing to becoming something of a harasser of the week. So it looked at the relationship where you have one person that was typically in a more powerful scenario and situation and utilizing that power over the weaker person within that relationship. So of course it transcends into what we know it as and understand it as today as a tactic of force, coercion, something that's hurtful, teasing, threats and abuse that are, typically utilized when that's within our presence, and then aggressive behavior, dominating and intimidating other people. So from there, we actually would like to transition to the next slide, please. So with us understanding workplace bullying, or just bullying at its best, we know that only not happens, as she mentioned before, in schools or in the community or just within groups of people. It certainly happens within the workplace. She mentioned before that there's 30%. I actually did a little bit of research myself and found that there's actually a little bit more, where 35% or more people are actually being bullied within the workplace. And so this behavior is typically unwanted, related, aggressive behavior that involves like a real perceived power of imbalance that manifests as things that are verbal abuse, things that can be seen as intimidation tactics, things that can be seen as someone being humiliated in the workplace. And all of those particular, I would say, voices of verbal or actually adjectives focused around that word can actually become a saboteur within the workplace. Saboteur meaning sabotaging other people's work efforts, getting in the way of them actually being able to progress within the workplace. And all of this actually creates a hostile, offensive, and toxic workplace. So if we can go to the next slide, please. It also is a full bore, systematic, impersonal campaign of destruction. So it's just a continuous, I would say, linear aggression, or really just a process of just having a person go from, feeling really high and great about themselves to feeling demoralized and belittled, or just, feeling oppressed in a sense. Next slide, please. So statistically, as I mentioned before, that there's more than 35% of 53 million Americans working and experiencing workplace bullying, believe it or not. And this is across the country. I've also looked at some stats, and there's some pretty staggering stats in other countries like Australia, Italy, and they're actually experiencing some of the same things, and some of the numbers are actually even higher. And so if we go into the statistics and looking at it from gender-based, that can actually catapult into a little bit different of a scenario as well, because sometimes it's not just necessarily the culture, it can also transcend into it being workplace harassment, honestly. And workplace harassment, in addition to that, to it being male, female, or just ethnic based. And so it's 4 times more prevalent than illegal harassment within the workplace, but it also can sometimes tie within to that. And then oftentimes you see Hispanics, Africans, or African Americans within the workplace having a much higher ratio or average of actually being harassed in the workplace. So bullying has been around for many, many centuries. In fact, we have well-known figures in the Bible who's actually been bullied. And you may ask at this point, like, well, who may have been bullied? So we have several people in the Bible. I have listed here David, Daniel, Esther. We also would like to say Jesus was actually harassed. And so not just harassed, but bullied as well, because they didn't necessarily like his trajectory or his journey or what his purpose was within the communities that he entered into. And so needless to say that bullying and microaggression actually works hand in hand, as microaggression is a term that's like really a verbal behavior that creates an environment with just slighted, intentional or unintentional behaviors that's creating, communication that can be hostile, derogatory, negative, and just attitudes focused around stigmatizing cultural migration or groups or minority groups within the group. It also involves displaying verbal and nonverbal signs, typically towards people that of ethnic color or race. So now that we've gotten a clear understanding of what workplace bullying and microaggression actually is, I would like to take this opportunity to say that if you're actually identified points of interest or points of places that you've actually been bullied, or even have recognized other people in the workplace being bullied, there's a process in terms of not just identifying it, but actually being able to overcome it. As we mentioned before, we're here to see and talk about how to overcome that within the workplace. So I have 5 different tips, because I've personally experienced some bullying within the workplace myself. And here are 5 steps that I've actually taken in order to actually heal from that and be able to move forward, because that type of behavior can become so demoralizing that it can actually transcend into your thought process. And that thought process ultimately takes you into a pattern of, I would say, behaviors that can be not just destructive for yourself, but it also can actually disconnect you from working with people in a very cohesive setting or being a great team player, because you become a little bit more rigid or a little bit more uneased around people because you felt like you were just, being somewhat attacked in those situations or moments. And so the first step I would say you would need to take here is certainly make your health the primary concern. So going in, talking possibly to a counselor, talking to someone that has a biased opinion about it, talking to someone who can be subjective about it, and really just sharing how you're feeling around it, but also implementing some things that you may not necessarily be doing in the process. Like, I took on exercising. It helped me to just really refuel myself, to release those toxins and those toxic ways and behaviors as I was actually dealing with some of the processes within the workplace. And then from there, as I mentioned before, not only getting help from a professional, getting that emotional help and support and validation. It doesn't have to necessarily be a counselor. You can actually be talking to a friend about it, asking them to be your prayer partner about it, or just kind of talking through it. And sometimes just journaling and writing down, how you perceive that scenario or situation in the process. And then, of course, most importantly, educate yourself about a hostile work environment, because it is so prevalent that I think we have a tendency to believe or kind of overlook it, because we may not necessarily want to deal with it. We want to shy away from it because sometimes people are just not really great at dealing with conflict, right? And so in the process of actually identifying that, also, I would say educate yourself about the labor laws, because people often don't realize that within the workplace setting, not only does the employer have, I would say, policies and laws and rights, the employee themselves actually have those same rights as well. So the employer or employee actually have the same power in terms of having a relationship within that workplace. So the employer doesn't necessarily, or their boss or someone that's within a powerful position, doesn't have the right to go in and mistreat or communicate any type of way with an individual just because they're actually reporting to them or that chain of command. So really understand what those work labor laws are, and understand that civil management training treatment is I would say, is a governmental law where employers don't have the right to just treat employees any type of way. And so you have a right to go in and stand up for yourself and not actually be, I would say, someone actually coming back in and trying to sabotage you or your work because you've actually gone on to speak up for yourself. And then from there, of course, once you've understood that and you've regained your power, then you have to change your perspective on how you're looking at things. And then see yourself within a place in a position of being worthy enough to be able to not only communicate those same efforts and those needs and your needs, and being able to express how you're feeling in that same place and feel safe to do that without someone actually, retaliating against you, because they can't technically do that legally. Understand that you have to change your perspective about it so that you can grow in your thought process about it and feel, I would say, strengthened in a sense of empowerment so that you can continue to carry on and have those healthy relationships moving forward. And I'm so sure some of the other speakers will speak a little bit more about that. And then from there, after you've actually identified all of those places and points of pain that you've actually dealt with, you've found out how to go about healing and making that your primary concern. You've gotten your emotional support. You've gotten some validation in place. You've educated yourself on both the legal laws as well as, what actually happens within the workplace when there's some bullying that takes place within the workplace. Change your perspective on that again, heal through the process, and know that it's not going to be a process that's going to necessarily be short term. Sometimes it may take a little longer. It took me, I would say, a good year or two to actually process some things that happened to me, because I've been in that workplace environment for a while, and I shied away from the idea of being able to stand up for myself. And when I finally did, they actually thought, okay, well, maybe if we put more work on her, then she'll just automatically leave. And so I actually ended up having to go to HR regarding some of that bullying. And believe it or not, they got in alignment with my thought process about it. They had me document a few things, and come to find out they were not the employers that were in charge of that position were not right about their action, the course of action, and how they were handling many different work opportunities there within the workplace. Once I understood, that was something that I could be able to communicate in a safe way and be safe and not be retaliated against, I utilized that power from there, and then it helped to change my perspective on how I was dealing with that. And once I did that, I found closure to it. I began to renew my self-thought process about it, renew how I dealt with people in the workplace, and then also was, I would say, more cognizant of those types of behavior when they were presented to me, so that I could handle it and approach it differently, so that it would not manifest into anything different from there. And so, of course, if you have any, I would say, trouble dealing with persons or personalities within the workplace, and you find it something that's aligning with bullying in the workplace, then certainly go out and see or seek a professional, go and talk to HR department. Believe it or not, the HR department is actually there not just for you, but also for the employer. So they're great to talk to, just to kind of understand the policies there for the workplace. And then from there, possibly talk to a counselor, talk to some people within your community to see how you could go about actually getting some help around that. And so that's what I had to share with you all today. And of course, I look forward to hearing from the other speakers. I would like to say at my end of my presentation, know that no one can take away your power to heal. You have every right to do that. And I would say move forward in your healing. So activate that healing today and move forward. Thank you.
Wow, great presentation. Thank you so much again, Jolie, for that. We are so grateful. All right, so we're going to, as a team, my subject matter experts, we're going to discuss the reflection question or the reflective questions. So amongst us four, if you're comfortable, has any of you been a victim of workplace bullying? You can share the scenario and how you handled it and what you could have done differently. Whoever wants to go. Okay, go ahead, Sike.
So, quite recently, I would say that, in 2019, I experienced heavy gaslighting. It was not necessarily an actual workplace. Me and this person, we were in ministry together.
CK, what does gaslighting mean? Because there's some people that don't know the term, please.
Got it. So gaslighting is when, essentially, is when somebody is bullying you. It's like undercover bullying.
Okay.
That's the best way, the easiest way to explain it. It's like a person will, some of the elements are sarcasm. They'll speak to you in certain kinds of ways, and then if you bring it to them, they'll say, "Oh, you're overreacting." It's a very dismissive technique of bullying. So that I experienced that, and it was really hurtful, because this person that I experienced it with, I really had genuine love for that person. We did a lot of work together. I thought they were my best friend, but it took a lot of self-discovery and acknowledging, because there was a time where I'm like, well, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe this person isn't actually doing this. Maybe it's me. So I was the one being gaslighted, but I'm thinking it's me overreacting, that's the goal of gaslighting, to make the person think that that they're not being bullied. And so I'm still on the road to recovery from that. It's very hurtful, especially when it's someone who you think is, you think you're like home team, you think you're really close with that person, And then one day you realize, well, all this time, this person has been bullying me essentially. So I have experienced it and I'm still healing from it.
Wow, CK, how did you know that you weren't overreacting? You know what I mean? It's like the mental mind is so interesting. I'm fascinated by it. But what made you realize that, wait a minute, I'm not overreacting when I stood up to this coworker that was bullying me? How did you know?
Well, I think it was one of those situations where you just get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And self-realization, just like, hey, I don't deserve to be treated this way. I haven't provoked it in any kind of way. And so that's kind of what kicked it off for me. And then plus, like I said, we were working in ministry together. So it was carrying over to my family. And, that's a no-no. So it was primarily once I started seeing how it was affecting my family, then it was like that was the kicker that said, hey, I don't deserve this, and neither do they, And so that was the catalyst to come to the realization that I was experiencing that gaslighting, that bullying.
Wow, that is so interesting. Again, CK, I hope you heal. We belong to a trauma healing group, and Julie and myself would recommend that you join. It's Christian focused because I know you're a minister. It was really helpful. It just goes through how to heal from trauma, and we can provide you that information. Thank you for being transparent. Jolie, you said something, and I think CK highlighted it. You said how in the Bible we saw Daniel, Esther, and I don't know who the third person is. I can't remember how they were also bullied. I mean, it hurts when the bullying is from our institution, like religious institution. So what's your take? Like, why as a minister, Julie, as well, what's your take? Why is there bullying in the church? Come on now.
It's interesting because we have to, so you're going to bring the minister out when you sit there and say church and then ask that type of question about the Bible. So we go through what we go through, not for ourselves, but for our brothers and sisters in Christ. And so I like to attribute that to, we're not fighting against flesh and blood. We truly are fighting against spiritual weakness and war and dark places where we don't necessarily naturally think of that when we're actually dealing with an individual. And so I believe that the enemy often like to utilize moments like that to derail us from our course and also create or cause divide, not only within the church, but then within relationships, because unity is a huge part of the kingdom. And so if you look at the body and you look at the body of Christ and you look at that and you compare that to like a physical being of a body, you can't have, one part of the body operating and functioning. Like if you cut off your pinky toe, of course, that, creates a whole different dynamic for how you're walking and how you're handling things and how you're, balancing. And so that's like the whole target and I would say focus for the enemy is to throw us off course. And so especially when you have great purpose and great power. And he used the word gaslighting. It's interesting because I've never heard it put that way, CK, before. And so I've always used it and said that people often like to try to emotionally hijack you. And so they do it in a way that comes off like, where they're, being very simplistic about it or approaching you in a way that they're being friendly. And it's almost like this little, fable that I heard once before where there's a dog and a rabbit, and they would often travel this trail each day. And with them traveling this trail each day, the little rabbit will jump out and bite the dog on the ankle, but they were supposed to be best friends, right? And so this would happen, just frequently, and so much so that the dog stopped one day and said to the rabbit, like, hey, are you my friend? Or if you're my friend, why do you keep jumping out to bite at me? And so I think oftentimes, people come to us and they come to us in a friendly way, in a friendly manner, and they're fighting off things within their own personal spirit. And it sometimes clashes with our spirit and says, how the Bible says, basically a spirit basically confirms or defines or recognizes another spirit. So sometimes their spirit is fighting off against our spirit, and it creates a little bit of spiritual warfare there. And so we're taking it on in the natural, but it's actually happening in the spirit realm.
Awesome. Thank you, Minister Jolie, for giving us an idea, a breakdown of why we have bullying in the church. But you know what? I'm not trying to pick on churches. I'm here for a solution. My company, LLC's Azumah Solutions. So I focus on solution in all institutions, in all community. Again, my name is Dr. Azumah. I'm the moderator and the host for this show. We're talking about bullying in the workplace. Edlene, bullying doesn't just happen in the church. Bullying happens everywhere, even in families too. And that will be another topic. Have you experienced bullying at work, and what was the experience like, if you have? Unmute your mic. Unmute.
Yes, I have experienced bullying at work. So first of all, I have sickle cell, a condition that makes me sick all the time. So since I started working my career, I have to work 10 times than the ordinary person because I want to prove myself. I can do this. Don't fire me just because I'm always like calling in, asking, I need time. I need to go to the hospital. I have to prove myself. But this last few years, the bullying was too much for me. To the point I'm scared to work for any company right now because my last working place, it wasn't good at all. As you can say, gaslighting. I feel there were times I was gaslighted because, for example, my supervisor would be like, do this, do this, do this. When you do it, it's like, no, I don't want this. I don't like it. Come up with something else. You come up with something else. It's like, oh, no, we're not going to do this. You have to ask me first. It's like, I don't do anything that will make my supervisor happy, even when I do the right things. And there was a day I was really sick. I was in a crisis. And my right foot was paining me, so I couldn't drive. I have to drive like 30 to 45 minutes on the freeway. And she like, well, take an Uber. But like, I just couldn't walk. She like, well, I'm going to send you an Uber. You need to come to work. Seriously? And whenever I try to speak up, it'd be like, hush me down. Oh, you want to argue? You are the wrong one here. But I am not wrong. I know what I'm saying. I know my job. And the point is, the person I was a digital media specialist, and the person doesn't know anything about technology. But the person they are arguing me, putting my work down, say like, oh, my teenage son can do what you're doing. No, your teenage son cannot do Harvard editing. I went to school for that. I learned that 3 years. I have a certificate for that. So I will assure you, Harvard editing, your teenage son cannot do it. He can do the ones they have on phone or whatever it is, but not the professional one I'm using. You have to go to school for it, or somebody have to teach you. So it's like, when you do this, this Facebook content, you know, all these kids can do it these days. You are so slow. Which kids? Because what I'm doing professional work. I am using professional softwares, which I know no kid can use unless you have education on it. And it keeps getting into me. And I can't take it anymore. And there were times I keep telling myself, am I going to explode one day? Do I need to walk away? I just can't take it anymore. So they were bullying, they were gaslighting, like I'm overreacting. They want me to question my own reality, but like, I'm not going to question it because one, I know I'm not crazy. Two, I know I'm good at what I'm doing. So if you have a problem, the problem is with you. You have to figure it out, not with me. So I know I'm not going to allow anybody to put me down, put my education down, put my skills down. I have to stood my grounds and say, I just can't take this anymore. There's another thing. This person will make me work overtime. So let me say there was a day I worked like 12 hours straight. And you know what the person will do? He'll be like, we don't pay for overtime. So that means you're going to take a day off. But if I'm taking a day off, you should pay me for that day. So you're not paying me for the overtime. You're not paying me for the day you asked me to take off. Then I came up with a solution. I'm like, okay, I keep working all this overtime, not because I want to work it, but you keep making me work in this time. So basically, let's go to an agreement. I use this time when I want to go to the hospital. That will be more helpful. That means if I have a doctor's appointment, I don't need to go through the normal time of process. I would just use these hours already from the overtime. She's like, no, 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 no. You have to use it like immediately. So you're trying to use me. You're not paying me. I want to use the time in a way that will comfort me. You say, no, I shouldn't. It's everything should be about you. And you feel that's not bullying. And you're forcing me, middle of the night, you will call me to fix things. Weekends, you're forcing me to work. You keep telling me I'm not going to pay you.
Wow.
There's so many laws broken there. So at this point, I'm like, is it worth it to even allow anybody to bully you at the workplace? Even your supervisor. I think I should have speak up and walk away from it before everything just collapsed.
Wow. Wow, Etlin, I'm so sorry. You speaking just shows, in my opinion, Julie, would you agree that you're hurt? Like, I don't know, you have pain in your heart. You were belittled about your credentials and what you can do. I don't think it's appropriate for her to say my teenage son. Like, I don't even think that conversation should have happened. Like, who are you? And I just want to tell you that you've been important in growing my organizations. You've helped us in Love Your Menses. You've helped me at Azumah Solutions. You've done great work. So on behalf of us, I want to tell you you're doing great. They're all lies. Please, and I'm an honest person. I will not say this in national media or social media, but you've been very great. Jolie, have you noticed something? Most people that have been bullied at work choose to become entrepreneurs because they don't want to deal with it. Would you guys agree with that statement? Because I know, Jolie, you're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. Edlin is an entrepreneur. We decided to, we're not going to deal with this. We're just going to go start our own. Do you think it's true, CK? Unmute and join in the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. Because not who wants to deal with that type of hostility every day, and it's one of those things where when you decide to become an entrepreneur, there's a sense of control, I believe, that you don't have in a common workplace, especially when it's hostile. So, of course, being an entrepreneur, that's a lot of people's goals, and it's fun and it's hard work and everything like that. But you'll take that hard work and that sacrifice over having to deal with somebody constantly belittling you, gaslighting you, bullying you. I think when you have to weigh out the options, you're like, you know what? Forget this. I'm going to start my own thing. That way, if something goes awry, I can blame myself. If something doesn't get done, I can take accountability for myself instead of being blamed and bullied about things that may not be my fault necessarily. So I think that's an accurate statement. Entrepreneurship definitely does seem like an escape from workplace bullying. I agree with that statement.
Yeah, because all of Jolie and Etlin, they're my good friends, and they know that I am hesitant to go back to be fully employed. I don't think I can do it. I rather have my peace of mind, than workplace bullying. So you know what? There's 4 of us, and 4 of us admit to being bullied at work. That's 100%. Jolie, you give statistics of 35% of Americans state that they've been bullied. Are we an exception? Are we, are we an exception that 100% of us, 4 out of 4, 100% of us in this studio has been bullied? Or is it something else? Are Black people more bullied than white people and the data is not capturing it? Or are we just a weird sample, a weird bunch of people? Julie.
Well, no, I think that the numbers the difference there is really that they're looking at it from 53 million people versus 4. And so that's what the percentages look like is diminished there, and it looks like it's less. But you're definitely right about it's actually more of an ethnic driven percentile, because as I've mentioned in the stats that, mostly I would say Black and brown people are harassed within the workplace. I've actually gone through some civil management training treatment myself because I've been in management, and even being in management, I've dealt with colleagues or people that were basically higher on the hierarchy than myself, deal with them with behaviors that maybe are emotionally hijacking in certain scenarios and situations. And it's because they really believe that there's a false sense of power that they have because of their title. And it's unfortunate because, as I mentioned before, with them not having the knowledge and knowing that you have rights as an employee, regardless of where you are within an organization, you could literally go in and personally file a lawsuit against them individually as a person, not the company itself. You can do the company, but you can also file a lawsuit against the person as an individual because of the harassment they've placed on you, because of the bullying that actually is taking place within the workplace. So that is something I actually learned from a team of lawyers that I actually work with there in corporate America as well. And so understanding that and learning that different, I would say, aspect of labor laws gave me a sense of comfort, because I knew then I have rights too. And because I have rights doesn't mean that you can come in here in the office and gaslight me or emotionally hijack me and think that it's okay without there being any type of repercussion behind that. And whether that's in the, even in the church, I would say in the synagogues or in the, church itself, or even within the community or home, people really don't have a right to just mishandle or treat people in whatever manner they deem necessary. I think often what's happening with that too is that there is a level of, as you mentioned, there's 4 of us here and all 4 of us are entrepreneurs, right? There is a level of, I would say, expertise that we possess now. We didn't just drive out and just get to the point of entrepreneurship, right? We already were entrepreneurs within our workplace. And so sometimes people see something that's on you that we don't necessarily verbalize, if you will, and they're not really sure how to handle it. So that personality, and I think that spirit of who we are entrepreneurially probably shined through a lot more than we really understood in the workplace. And it became intimidating to some of those people that we work with, even within the church, because you can have, you look at the fivefold ministry and you're saying, okay, I have 5 gifts, we're looking at the 5 finger, the whole apostle, the prophet, the evangelist, the pastor, and the teacher, and someone's like, I only got 2 gifts. And that could be, something rather where it can create a little bit of competition there. And because they're thinking you have 5 and they have 2, then maybe we need to kind of like belittle or just kind of demoralize or undermine that individual so that they're not shining through any brighter than I am. And unfortunately, just as Jesus was harassed and, basically bullied going into the Garden of Gethsemane, it drove him to his place of purpose, just as it has for all 4 of us, right? So he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and even though Judas had come in and he betrayed him, basically, because that's what's happening when someone's actually bullying you, they're betraying you and betraying your, whole identity of who they think that you are. And again, it's who they think that you are, and not really understanding that, hey, you betrayed me, but yet I'm in the garden, but I have a much, greater purpose, in alignment for me. So, Christ's whole purpose was to get to the cross to save the entire world. So he had a much greater purpose there. And so even though Jesus, knew that Judas was going to betray him, he came into the garden, he kissed him, he's basically like, whatever you're going to do it quickly, do it swiftly, right? Because he knew it had a greater purpose. And so it drove him to his place of position of power, which was actually on the cross, to go out and save the entire world. So just as we were actually drove from our workplaces, it drove us to our place of power. And as CK mentioned earlier, there's a sense of control. I also like to equate that to, there's a sense of us actually being able to manage our stressors, because we do have things that come at us just as we would in the workplace, and balance it out better, because we're able to manipulate the scenarios and be able to say, okay, I know what my capacity is. Today, if it's at, 32 ounces, then I can only handle that 32 ounce cap. And if anything else goes above that, it's going to create a mess. So we know where to cut it off at, right? Some people don't know what their capacity is, and they'll try it and they say, okay, you're like, I'm operating at 32 ounces a day, and they're going to try to give you 64. You're like, whoa, that is double the portion, way too much. I've just been gaslighted. You better watch out, because something else may transpire from that. So totally get it. But yeah, I believe it actually drove all 4 of us to our place of purpose. I know it has for me. I knew at some point that I wouldn't be in business for myself. I didn't know it had to happen in that direction. But as time had gone by, God was actually explaining and sharing some things with me spiritually. And needless to say, when it all transpired and happened, I wasn't surprised. I just wasn't sure exactly how it would actually transition into my actually going into entrepreneurship.
Wow, Julie, thank you for taking us to another step. Yes, you're a victim of bullying, but turn that adversity into a miracle. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. That's a conversation for someone that has healed, right? Someone that's healed, someone that has found purpose in their pain. But Edlene, do you think that sometimes people that are victims of bullying basically provoked it? Do you think, sorry to say this, let me rephrase it, but don't take it personal. Did you think you're the one that made your supervisor belittle you? Was your action disrespectful that she became defensive? So what are your thoughts?
Oh, well, no, because I'm going to give another incident that happened. So I was not at work and I went the next day. So I'm the digital media specialist. They were trying to upload something on YouTube, but YouTube kicked them out, according to them, say copyright issue because there's a music on the content. I'm like, okay, let me look at it because they're supposed to block this account. If you say YouTube kick you out on copyright issue, YouTube will instantly block you. You have no, you're still up. And like, let me look at it. It might be something. I look at the notice, YouTube said like, oh, basically you're using somebody else's music. So if you gain money out of this content, we are not giving it to you. It's going to the artist. So they felt that YouTube kicked them out. But I know that the account is still up. I know it's that warning. So I like, okay, well, you were trying to upload it then. Let me just agree. I need to agree to that. Then the upload will be complete. Everything go up. I did that in seconds. And I told my supervisor, it's like, yeah, it was just a message you need to agree on and you can upload. It's like, oh, nobody told you to upload it. Why did you do that? You already uploaded. It was there. The only thing, it wasn't public because you didn't agree to the terms of YouTube. So why are you telling me I'm not supposed to put it public? Well, why did you upload it to YouTube then? So that wasn't my problem because she left the message for me to figure out what's going on with the YouTube content, why YouTube refused to allow them to post. So if the content is already there, I just need to agree. It was uploaded. And she starts getting at me like it was all back and forth. Like, wait, what's going on? I'm confused here. So when I came in, I spoke to my boyfriend. I'm like, this is what happened. They were having a problem with this YouTube video, blah, blah, blah. And I did that in 5 seconds. I figured it out. I said, then at the end of the day, my supervisor just explode on me. I'm not supposed to upload it. I should ask, blah, blah, blah. And my boyfriend like, don't mind. They're just jealous of you. Don't mind them. I'm like, oh, wait, why did you say jealous? It's like, well, all of them tried. They couldn't. Then all of a sudden, in 5 seconds, you figure out the problem. Of course, she's going to be mad because she doesn't have any respect for you, but you always fix the problem. So I was not provoking it. It's just like maybe the upset is like she know technology, I don't know technology, but that's not my problem. With our issue or whatever she was feeling, it's not my problem because all I know, and I can say it today, and there was I think in December, I was able to tell the HR something like, you guys use me, misuse me, and abuse me. And today I can stand to her and tell her that, woman, look, if you don't change that attitude, it will catch up with you long. I can walk away from you, but other people wouldn't. They will sue you.
Wow.
Because, and I think again, she did that because I'm foreign. I don't think she would have done that to an American born person. It's like, oh, I can do what I want. They don't have choice. They like the money. They want the money so they can work. But I just felt it. I allow her to belittle me to that point. I should have spoke up at a point and say, you know what? Look at me, look at you. I respect your education, respect mine. If you don't know technology, that's not my problem. Because this is somebody that has zero idea about technology, but she's always talking about who can do this, who can do that. Everything is so easy. You telling me all these kids can do that? I am telling you, I am a professional. Your son can't talk to YouTube. They can't. I can talk to YouTube
Wow.
and tell them to put your content up. I have a phone number for them. I have a direct email for them. I don't need to turn around. That shows I'm a professional. I have business accounts on the social media, certified one, which everybody don't have. You have to be professional. So what do you want to tell me? You can't even belittle me because the way I see myself, it's really hard for somebody to put me down. You trying to put
Wow.
me down, I just say as one thing, it's like you trying to act like a Goliath. But you know what? I just don't care because
I'm
we are not the
sorry.
same.
I'm so sorry, Aileen. I mean, the bitterness from your voice again shows that you're really hurt. Yeah, I really, really, really am truly sorry. Aileen brings a big point. CK and Jolie, you guys are African Americans. Um, do you think that immigrants are bullied more at work than the Americans, like the citizens, the natural born Americans? Is it something? Because can I be tangential? Like sometimes in the hospitals, immigrants are treated differently. Undocumented patients are treated differently from Americans. Is that true? Or, I mean, or the data is not capturing it? And why? Is it because they think that immigrants don't know their labor law? Or is it because they think the law does not protect immigrants? I get confused because, you know, this is the land of the free, the land of diversity, but how come immigrants tend to be picked on more? Or is it true? Thank you. Julie, go ahead.
I would say lack of cultural sensitivity. And so that's something that we talked about in one of my diversity management courses during my MBA process. And so what happens is not only you asked the question earlier, you know, do you believe that it's, you know, culturally sensitive or if it's something that's happening, you know, with African Americans? Honestly, when they actually see a Black or brown person in the workplace, they're not even considering where your region is, where your culture is, or where you're from. They're just seeing a Black person. And even with that being stated, often we are just targeted. And so that's why the stats are reading about Hispanics and the African American people in that sense. And so it's unfortunate because you can look at someone from a India standpoint or someone actually from Asia or someone from one of the other countries, and they're always considered white. So the only time the differentiation actually really truly happens is when you're filling out an application. And so I remember taking that course and actually sitting in there with some of my management class called Diversity Matters within the corporate setting, and remember literally like watching the physical expression of one of my bosses, you know, Caucasian gentleman, and he was blown away. He could not believe, like, you know, they're like, you know, there's this person who worked there from India, and they're like, you know, what do you think that they think of this person? Because we had to go through the processes because they were trying to keep us from being in liability in terms of us managing different scenarios within the workplace from a managerial standpoint. And, you know, he saw them as someone actually being from India. And the attorney was like, no, they're considered white. They're considered white. So you look at Black and brown persons, you think about the whole Black Lives Movement now. You look at the provocation of that and focused around that. Their whole identity is this inequality, basically, that happens because they have actually been afforded opportunities and given passes with certain things. So there's this superiority complex within their thought process that sometimes just naturally happens. And so we are awfully the target behind them actually believing that we're not worthy of something or not being equal to who and where they are within the workplace. And often times is not always verbalized, but sometimes it's shown in their behavior. And so I was also taught within the corporate setting that you can have one negative thought, literally one negative thought in the back of your thought process about someone. You never have to vocalize it. You never have to voice it. You never have to say it to them. It'll eventually show out in your behavior. And so, yeah. And so just watching that and actually, you know, me being in management, I've saw it happen time and time again. And unfortunately, people are just not educated in those arenas and that, you know, think that, okay, I can bring that whole behavior that I'm acting out at home and then bring it in, you know, behave like that way in the workplace. And unfortunately, Ethelene, I sit there and as she mentioned, you know, I hear some of the I would say, agitation from the scenario, because it still sounds like it's a little fresh. And what it does, it shifts our mood. It shifts how we're thinking things. It shifts how we perceive things. It shifts how we sometimes, go about living life. And so I also heard you mention in the beginning that you were a little bit, hesitant to go back into the workplace because of that. So it creates that barrier where you have that sense of, I wouldn't say timidness, but you're just like, you know what? I was hurt in that place before. I don't necessarily want to go there again. So I know that could be a situation that puts me in a place of perplexity, or puts me in a place of chaotic scenarios where my, anxiety levels are actually going up high. And, granted, it happens to me. I can give you the most recent incident. The place that I'm talking about where I was bullied, I literally had not been back to that place for 4 years. Dr. Azumah mentioned earlier that we worked on the Haiti initiative. And so as we were working through the process and we had our task team of 9 people, I sat there and I contemplated, do I go back to that place of resource to get the resources we need? Because I knew I had access and I knew exactly what we can do to utilize those resources to be able to help that community. I had to literally reach beyond my own self, I would say, trepidation about the whole idea, because it began to stir up some of those triggers. And so as I began to deal with those triggers, like, okay, well, what's going on there? And I had to put myself in a position of place of saying, okay, there's purpose there. So this really isn't about me. I can go in there and fill out this information, get the information I need, get out of there and get the tools and resources we need, and we can go out and help the people in Haiti. And that's exactly what I did. But guess what happened when I get there? When I get there, not one single person that I work with or that had bullied me was there any longer. So not only did it put me in a place of where I was walking in a place of healing, but it gave me confirmation, because one of the persons that I actually worked with that actually recognized that I was being bullied brought it up. And they actually mentioned how my countenance had changed, how my whole look and appearance was different. They said, you look good. You look like you're at peace. And so, but it took me 4 years to get to that place, because I had nothing and didn't want nothing to do with that hospital. I didn't want anything to do with the people over there. I literally was dealing with COVID back in 2019, 2020, whenever we initially started dealing with it. And I literally told my boyfriend, you know what? If I die in here, do not have them take me to XYZ, and I won't name that hospital, right? He was joking. He said, you know what? I'm joking, but if you die, we're not taking you to the hospital. They're going to be taking you to the morgue. But that's just to give you an example of how, turned off I was from that place because of those people. And granted, the entire work environment, the place, the hospital itself, they're a dynamic organization. They're a faith-based organization, CJ. Whereas CK is a faith-based organization. And these are people that call themselves Christian, right? And so even with that being stated, I believe that times people will take their place of power and try to utilize it to strong arm and strong handle, or to get things that they need from individuals that they believe are deemed less important than they are within the workplace. And oftentimes it ends up being us, unfortunately.
Wow. Thank you again, Jolie, for sharing your experience. Thank you for stating that it took you years, almost 4 years to heal. And actually you healed, your healing was manifested when you decided to join Love Your Menses to provide relief for Haiti. You had to overcome it, step it. So it's really interesting that sometimes the act of giving contains our healing. I really think giving is just phenomenal because it has so much. But CK, is there any economic impact of bullying in a negative way? 4 of us have decided, nope, we're just going to do our things. Is there any impact? One, CK, pay attention to this. So when I was doing my research about workplace bullying, I didn't have enough resources, right? So when we did the school bullying last in November, there was so much resources, there were numbers to call. But really, it seems like people are not talking about this. And I don't even think the public health people have so much. I don't know. Maybe I'm the one not searching enough. But do you guys, after CK respond to me, do you guys think that it's not really talked about? And why not? CK, go ahead.
Well, as far as bullying, you're talking about bullying being talked about. Is that what you're asking?
Workplace bullying, is it really talked about? Because I mean, I didn't have a resource. You know how like bullying for kids, there's the 1-800 number that they can call if they feel bullied. But for workplace, it seems like there's really no resources. I guess, Jolie, you would say they want us to trust HR, but most of us don't trust HR.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't think it's being talked about enough because Jolie touched on it at the very beginning. There's the misconception that it only happens in school settings, like when we're kids, like when we're young people. You know, it happens even into adulthood because young bullies become adult bullies and they still function throughout society. So unless the bullying changes, you know, that person is still going to continue to be a bully. And I don't think that it's being talked about enough because there's the thought that, well, you guys are adults. You should be able to handle it amongst yourselves. Or, you know, there's HR for that. You just take it to HR. But, you know, you have fear of retaliation. You have just fear in general. You have not even recognizing that you're being bullied. That happens, you know, and I just don't think that it's being spoken about enough because, and just the fact that you had such a hard time finding your resources, that proves that very thing. Anything that is, you can always tell what's important to society by the amount of resources that are easily available. You know, so things like suicide, there's a bunch of resources available for that. You name it. So when you find out that there's that you're having such a hard time gathering resources on a topic, most likely that means it's not being spoken about enough in you know, in the grand scheme of things. That's my opinion anyway. Oh, I lost you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Edlin, do you want to join in? Is there any economic effect of bullying in the society, do you think? And if so, why aren't they talking about it?
Yes, I think so because so many people will stay in a bullying workplace because of the economic impact on their personal finances. So yes, they're going to stay. And basically, you have to understand the 1% control everything. So the 1%, they are not affected by bullying. They are affected by suicide. So yes, it's a big thing. So when the 1% is not affected, then forget it. They're not going to do anything about it. And it's a really, workplace bullying is a really good tool to put your workers under control. So you're going to continue to bully them. And all those workers, like, they want to please you. So they're going to keep doing the right thing. They're going to be so scared. Everything they want to do is right. They're going to be so scared. Even if they're sick, they're going to be scared to call in. They will force themselves to work. So the bullying is kind of a fear. So any like supervisor or co-worker doing that, they want nothing. So they want other people to be scared of them, for them to be in control. That's why they want to put this person down. That's why they're trying to pick on you, just for no reason. It's all about their insecurities. It has nothing to do with you. So like my last job, they're religious organization too. And this organization they are full of medical doctors. And I have a condition that really need immediate attention all the time. But they don't care if you're sick or not. That's not their problem. Only care about do their work. That's what they're looking for. They are Muslims, very religious. They are medical doctors, public health specialists. But still, they bully me. They bring my health down. They kick it out like that's nothing. That's what they did. So then these are the same people that are like they're raising awareness on like, oh, stigma, this, that, and on. They're educating the public. What are you educating the public when you can't even protect your own stuff, when you can't even listen to your own stuff, when you bully your own stuff, you don't even care about the health of your own stuff, you don't even care about the culture of your own stuff? What do you want to tell the public? What do you want to tell? And I said this, I'm not even scared to talk about my employer or even call them out on Facebook. I'm not scared of them. I can do,
You don't,
because I
please
have
don't call names.
evidence.
Don't
No,
call
I'm not gonna
names.
call them. Yeah,
Please.
because I have text messages, phone calls, message, emails, and everything putting me down. So I'm not just making accusations. So when I'm ready on my own time, I will put it on my Facebook for people to see, because they just can't get away with that and still be deceiving people in the community. They are the good Samaritan. They are the one raising awareness, giving talk to every people, talking about this and that, but you treating your employee like garbage. No, you have no business giving any talk. You have no business taking pictures with politicians. You have no business. Go back to your bullying workplace and do what you know how to do best. So basically, I think we the bullied people, we need to form some organization, groups, and everything, trying to raise awareness more till the 1% hears, till the government see this is something, because so many people are killing themselves from workplace bullying. Somebody like me have the grace of God. Somebody like me have a good network, like my family and everything, that puts me down and like, no, you're a good person, you know what you're doing and everything. So we need to raise awareness. If we are raising awareness for other stuff, we shouldn't be ashamed to talk about workplace bullying, because I know most of us will be ashamed. Like, I don't want people to hear about it. Maybe they're going to feel it's my fault, because the first thing you think about, for me, for example, I feel people are going to say it's your fault. Then I move away from that. It's like, no, I need to speak up. And I know at the end of the day, I share this video on my page. My employer, my former employer, is going to see it, is going to see it, and they know I'm talking about them, because I'm not scared of them. I can stand right to their face and tell them right now, you bullied me, you belittle me, you talk all kind of crap about me. But at the end of the day, I know my skill, my personality, everything about me is valid. And because of that, you scare me to go back to traditional work, because I am not going to take that from anybody else. No more. Nobody is going to talk me down. Nobody is going to kick my health out of the window. I am not doing that. At this point, if you try to bully me and go back to traditional work, I am going to speak up right there till you call security to put me out. Because everybody needs to know it's not okay. And we, the bully people, we need to speak up. If you speak up, they fire you, just walk away. God will make a way, because that's what my mom told me at a point. I said, leave this job. Don't question how are you going to be fed? How are you going to pay your bills? I said, God will make a way, because this is not a job for you. He said, this job will kill you. Your condition has to do with stress. The more stress they keep stressing you there, the more sicker you are going to get. This is not just me saying, this is what the professionals said. So you need to get out of this job. Forget about the money and everything. Just get out of this job.
Wow. Thank you so much again, Ethelene, for sharing your heart. You raised a lot of questions. One of them that you raised that I really appreciate is the incongruency between people that's supposed to help and yet they don't help their own employees. I don't know. I think human nature is so interesting. The dichotomy of humans, like we say one, we do one. We're regularly inconsistent. So, I mean, I apologize if that will help with your healing. I apologize on behalf of the employer, as a physician, as a public health professional. I'm sorry the way you feel. And this is why, because you said, quote, these people are public health experts. These people are religious people. These people are the ones that people see them as empathizer, healers, yet they were the ones bullying me. They knew I had sickle cell and they weren't understanding, if I have to paraphrase. So if I can help with the healing by apologizing on their behalf, please, I would do so. Yeah, because you're really hurt. I mean, I know when I did the school bullying, we see how painful it is. We saw the psychological effect of bullying. really you displayed on national social media that even adults get hurt. I mean, I don't know the statistics, and I won't speak of it, of the correlation between adult workplace bullying and suicide, but I do know that most of us, when we were bullied, we crawled into the fetal position and cried ourselves out. But again, so let's switch now. What are some of the solutions to bullying, or how can we handle it? I know Jolie said HR, Jolie said labor laws, Jolie said legal action. To take legal actions, you gotta have money now. Like, and most people, like you said, that are bullied are not people within the 1%, right? People that are easily targeted, minorities, poor people, immigrants. So how do we go? I mean, Jolie, maybe me and you, we need to make all four of us, maybe we need to make an appointment with one congressperson and have this conversation, because like you said, it's an important issue. I think it's more than 30% of Americans are bullied. Jolie, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So I would say I agree with all three of you, simply because I do believe that it socially and also economically impacts us across the board. As Ethelene so graciously mentioned, it puts you in a place of where it is messing with your social, I would say, aspect of life. It, goes to your mood, is affecting her personal health, and it could actually worsen your health, in that aspect. So you just definitely keeping that in mind, as CK mentioned before as well. It certainly, or actually Ethelene, she mentioned that it also messes with your finances as well. And so if you're actually leaving the job, as she mentioned, then you're having to deal with the whole idea of the dichotomy of, okay, I'm not working no more, I still have to pay bills. Those bills are not going to, stop coming. And so I think it's something that we often shy away from in the workplace. And so that's why it's not recognized as much, because no one is actually necessarily speaking up. I think that there's also some other support systems and mechanisms that we can actually implement and put in place. I think we're actually starting that now by having this conversation, and then actually creating support groups actually within the workplace, where you have a safe place to go and talk with some individuals that or have a place of influence or power within an organization to be able to do something or create that change within that workplace. And then you possibly talk to that individual, because sometimes it's a matter of a conversation and saying, hey, you know what, how you're handling this scenario and the situation is really not professional, and it could actually land you in trouble. There's also the equal, what is it called? The Equal Opportunity Act. So there's also a number within that confine as well that you can actually call to ask and talk to someone about workplace bullying, because I've actually utilized that as well. And so with all of the documentation and the information that you just shared, you can actually submit that to them, and they can actually do an investigation with there being no recourse of retaliation within that aspect. And so, as CK mentioned earlier, a lot of people don't speak up. One, we're adults, so who wants to say as an adult we're being bullied, right? So, the repercussion of actually possibly being retaliated against, you like, well, I don't want them coming after me because, my job may be at jeopardy and I can't afford to lose that job. Some people are not necessarily there faith-wise, and understanding that, but really just, I think, starting out like we are now with a forum, being able to come together and have this conversation, and then being able to support other people within that same process, and then creating those same, I would say, silos of support systems within the workplace, or even just, basically being the example, speaking up, speaking out, and not allowing for it to get so manifested within who you are as an individual that it begins to deteriorate your health. She had mentioned earlier, so I wanted to share this tidbit with the whole love your menses thing. So I think for me, I'd actually healed before being able to work with Love Your Menses, and we actually realizing that, okay, we needed medical equipment. It gave me that confirmation. So it was a gratitude there, because had you guys not stepped in and said, hey, this is something that we probably will need to send over there to Haiti, I wouldn't have gone that direction. So it's like a push in the right direction for me, so that I knew once I got there, like, hey, I really am over this. Like, I was ready to walk in there and look them in their face and say, hey, I'm working for myself. You can't do nothing to this. And now give me your stuff. and then I'm going to take it freely, you know, and so, and I'm going to do some great things with it and impact the community that way. And so I was really had, you know, just teetering with the whole idea of going over there, but you know, I made up my mind. So had it not been for you guys, I'm grateful for the opportunity, you know, to say, okay, well, this is some things we need. They had no idea that I was actually, you know, I would say toggling this in my thought process. No idea that I had this going on. And then she found out later on. She's like, wow, Julie, I didn't know. And so when I went over there, I was like, you know what? And again, as CK said, you know, sometimes it takes away the whole countenance of how you are and how you're approaching things and how you're feeling, how you're looking. And it just, you know, gaslights you to the point of where you are now intimidated, and it creates that whole facade of fear, the whole false events appearing real. So you're believing that you're dealing with a situation or scenario, and that is the whole tactic of the bully. They want you in a place of fear so they can manage and control the scenario and also create their own narrative.
Wow. Okay. So I'm trying to see if there's a difference between victims of adult workplace bullying from children, because we see that the data shows that children who are bullied become bullies. So do you think you all here that have been victims of bully would go out and bully others? I would think we shouldn't, but what are your thoughts? Let's go with CK. Go ahead.
All right. So here's the thing. I think there's a crossroads. When a person is bullied, there's a crossroad. This is my opinion. I think either they become a bully or they become more compassionate. Time will tell that. Me, myself, I'm not a bully. I'm just not. But I think ultimately that's the crossroad that a person has to come to if they experience bullying at a young age. They either are going to become the bully so they could experience that perceived power that they felt that the other person had over them, or they will have an understanding that this is not how you treat people, and then you will see an elevation in their compassion.
Wow, thank you. I like how you describe it as a crossroad and you make that decision of being more compassionate or becoming a bully. Julie, what's your take as we try to wrap up?
I would say what CK's mentioned. I think that they can. It probably brings on a false sense of empowerment themselves. And initially, probably initiate from the whole standpoint of I'm trying to defend myself. And as I'm defending myself, I'm becoming the very thing that I was, you know, trying to fight up against. And they do sometimes often turn into that. And as he stated before, you know, you can be in a place of compassion. I am not a bully. I've never been. And I've often been asked, why you don't do this or why you don't do that. And I'm like, well, did Jesus respond like that? No, he didn't necessarily just take anything. He was not, you know, he's meek, mild mannered, but he was also, you know, a lion at times. So he was the lion and the lamb. So there were moments where he can be gentle with it. And then, you know, a moment where he's turned over tax tables and saying, hey, look, you guys, you know, are out here taking people's money. And so I think there is an appointed time where we're able to kind of teeter between the two. But as someone mentioned before, you know, it starts out with, I believe, the nature and the culture of the home and what you're being taught and instilled. I think Evelyn had mentioned it before, you know, your mom was like, hey, don't take that, you know, stand up for yourself. If you got to walk away from it, then walk away from it because it's not good for your health. And so really looking at it from that perspective and knowing that it can go either way, but I think it's all in perspective.
Wow, thank you, Julie, reminding us it's all in perspective. Etlin, what's your take? Do you think adults that are bullied become bullies?
Well, I believe some becomes bullied because that's a protection. Remember, I said that you're in fear of your own insecurities. So instead of somebody gonna bully you, you're gonna be the first person to bully somebody. So it's a common thing. I don't know if I can call the names, like one of the Kardashians. I don't want to call them she said, oh, they used to bully her because of her weight, blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden, she have all the surgery, and now she's bullying people. She calling people fat. I hate people that are fat, that don't want to bring their weight down. But she was suffering from the same thing. So somebody said she was she was bullied. And she bring herself to that point that nobody's going to bully me anymore. And she turned around and starts bullying people, calling people fat, calling people they're glutton. They just don't want to put the food down. That's why they are fat. That's the exact word. She didn't use the word overweight. So, yes, I want to agree with that. Because she went to the level now, she feel that, well, I belong to the mean girl club. I look like them, so I'm gonna step on the people down. So yes, sometimes, yes, because of the insecurities, but sometimes for some other people, they're just gonna stand back, or maybe, or maybe they start bullying them again. They be a victims of workplace bullying. So it depends. But I just want to say, like what I've seen online, most times the people that are bullied in school end up becoming a more powerful bully.
I mean, it's not funny, but the way you, I'm so sorry, the way you phrased it at least says people that were bullied become more powerful bullies. That's pretty sad. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap up shortly. So before we wrap up, I want you guys to give us a takeaway point. And my own takeaway point, I guess, is people cannot give what they do not have. People cannot give what they do not have. I think in life, we should get comfortable realizing that people only give what they don't have. Latasha, do you want to say something? You're on the screen. Latasha? Okay. Okay, sorry about that. So that's my take. Like, you give only what you have. I'm going to hand it to Jolie while she gives us a takeaway point.
So my takeaway again would be, remember that no one has the power to take away your power to heal. So move forward and heal.
Edlene?
Yeah, well, I will say to people, if you've been bullied, belittled at work, that job is not for you. Yeah, you might not, say, I don't want to fight back. I don't want confrontation. Walk away from it. If you believe in God, God will provide for you. You don't believe in God, nature will take care of you. It's always going to be a way for you. And you don't even need to put those people in your resume. You don't, because they are not going to give you good recommendation. Although they are not supposed to say crap to somebody calling to find out, but they will beat around the bush to say something negative about you just because they feel that they're still in control of your life. So just move away totally. Close that door. Put big X on it. You're not going back.
Wow, thank you again. Move forward. Don't give them any more control. Thank you, Edlene, for reminding us. CK, go ahead. What's the takeaway point from today's talk?
We're not obligated to deal with the hostility of others.
Wow, we are not obligated to deal with the hostility. You know, guys, I'm so grateful that we're doing this. Israel, get ready for the slides. I'm so grateful that we're doing this because I didn't realize that this would be an important conversation, a conversation whereby we noted that there's limited or minute resources on how to handle workplace bullying. Many people are bullied, especially people that are within the minority. So thank you all for participating. I am greatly, greatly appreciative of your time. So we are going to go now to the announcements. All right. Okay. Again, Healthy and Uplifted recognize that the content of today's event might be triggering. Again, resources are available to provide support. I guess we will go with the Equal Opportunity office that Jolie mentioned. You may also reach out to us if you want us to get you involved in like the trauma healing community so that you can heal. Additionally, views, language, and opinions expressed by the keynote speakers, session leaders, or attendees do not necessarily reflect that of Healthy and Uplifted. All right, Healthy and Uplifted community announcement. All right, save the date. On February 20th, 2022, we're going to be talking about successful relationships. We're going to be giving tips for successful relationship. We've titled the presentation Working Side by Side for a Successful Relationship. Save the date. Again, it's going to be at 2 p.m. on February 20th. Next, again, we launched a new program. Yay! I really love it. Again, the name of the program is Elevating Her Mind with Dr. Azumah. Actually, this was born out of pain, situations of bullying whereby you're like, you know what, you go into yourself and, you're like, is this about me or someone else? And then I felt that I needed to get my inner strength. And how do I do that? It was by elevating my mind. So that's how the concept came about. You can listen to us weekly on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. It's an international program. We have people from Kenya, people from the Virgin Islands, and people from Nigeria just chiming to talk about their experiences and ways they are elevating their mind. So stay tuned, join us. It's a personal hit. Thank you. All right, I am an author. I've authored a book, a children's book called Jonathan and the Hole in His Shoes. Please go order some on Amazon. Maya Lens about menstruation and the Warrior Women Project. The Warrior Women's Project is an immigrant story, actually. Some of us talk about workplace bullying and what we face as immigrants. It's just a really beautiful book if you want to understand and get to know a couple of successful immigrant women. Next, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please, we're trying to reach the 1,000 subscription mark. Help us. We do a good job, I believe, because it's from our heart. So go to YouTube and subscribe, join our Facebook page, and also LinkedIn. Thanks again to all the participants, speakers, and planning team. Please email us with any feedback or suggestions. You can email me at healthyanduplifted@gmail.com or at info@healthyanduplifted.com. Again, our production and technical team includes Brianna Chicheri, who is a medical student right now. She's not here today, but Brianna, we appreciate you. Etlin Pickup, like I said, she's been with us since the inception of this monthly webinar. Israel Walker, thank you for your help. We appreciate you. She's our intern and she's pre-med. Noble Ndbc, thank you. Alpha Kamara, thank you. Latasha Cleveland, thank you. Sponsors, Azumah Solutions, which is my coaching company. I provide coaching services. I work honestly and compassionately and empathetically with my clients. I have experienced multiple trauma, and I've healed and I'm successful, thank God. So I can help you get there if you're ready for change. Another sponsor is Love Your Menses. Check us out. We do great work empowering young girls, not just in Boston, but globally. And the company that's sponsoring this today is Healthy and Uplifted. I'm going to leave you with these departing words. And this departing word comes from my experience running that weekly fireside chat called Elevating Her Mind. It says, there's an Igbo term which I like, is called Ndubisi. Life comes first. The word Ndubisi reminds me that where there's life, there's hope. Where there's health, there is hope. Where there's hope, we begin to see the possibilities in impossible. The word impossible then becomes I am possible. So if you're a victim of workplace bullying, you think there's no hope, as Etlin has said, you feel like, oh, what am I going to do? I have finances, I can't leave. You feel sad on the inside. Please just remember this. Where there's life, there's hope. Don't go and kill yourself. Please don't. There's a solution. Just, deal with the moment of pain. Get help. You can go see a therapist. You can confide in friends like I do. But yes, don't give up. Where there's life, there's hope. Look at us now. Look at all of us where we are. If we had killed ourselves during the experience, we wouldn't be here. So CK, thank you for not doing anything hostile to yourself. Thank you for being here. I love you so much. Etlin Pickup, thank you. Thank you. I pray you heal from your workplace bullying. Again, we appreciate you. We know you're a talented media specialist, so don't listen to that lady. Jolie, thank you for leading the way as a bona fide healed from workplace trauma. Again, thank you so much, participant. My name is Dr. Azumah. I'm the host and the moderator of this event for today. Stay tuned, and I will see you in February. Thank you.